Everyone saw a woman embarrassed in public. No one saw the quiet storm building behind her calm smile. It was a golden afternoon in downtown Atlanta, the kind that made glass shimmer and silverware gleam. Sunlight spilled through the tall windows of Le Montclair, an upscale restaurant where laughter floated between tables like bubbles in champagne. Every sound, the clink of cutlery, the murmur of polite conversation, hummed in perfect order. By the window sat a black woman, early 40s, her posture composed and serene. She wore a soft cream blouse and a navy skirt, simple yet dignified. There was a quiet grace about her, the kind that didn't demand attention but drew it naturally. She smiled faintly as she studied the menu, unaware of the uneasy eyes flicking toward her. The waiter, young, flustered, and clearly overworked, had been avoiding her table. His jaw tightened each time he passed her by, as if her calmness made him nervous. When he finally approached, his hands trembled slightly. The tray wobbled. In an instant, it happened. The bowl tipped, spilling hot soup across her lap. The scent of tomato and herbs filled the air, followed by gasps, then silence. Every conversation died mid-sentence. Glasses froze halfway to lips. She inhaled sharply, pain flickering across her face. But her eyes remained calm. A hush swept through the restaurant, fragile and heavy. Every pair of eyes turned toward the woman by the window, the stain spreading across her cream blouse, the thin curl of steam rising from her lap. Somewhere in the back, a spoon clattered onto a plate, then silence again. The waiter froze, color draining from his face. Instead of remorse, defensiveness rose in his tone. "You should have moved your bag," he muttered, his words trembling but sharp enough to cut through the air. A ripple of laughter followed, soft, cruel. At a nearby table, someone whispered, "That's what happens when you dress like you own the place." Another diner smirked, eyes glinting with a mix of judgment and amusement. The woman didn't respond. Her breathing slowed, steady. She picked up a napkin and began dabbing at her skirt, the movement precise, almost dignified. Her gaze lifted to meet the waiter's, calm, steady, piercing enough to make him shift on his feet. "It's all right," she said finally, her voice smooth but carrying quiet weight. "Mistakes happen." The manager hurried over, flustered and impatient, offering hollow apologies and a discount card. His eyes never quite met hers. He only wanted the moment to disappear, but she didn't move. She simply watched and remembered. She remained seated long after the whispers faded, her napkin resting gently in her hands. The air still carried the faint scent of spilled soup and embarrassment, but she seemed untouched by it now, as if her composure had wrapped her in something impenetrable. Her expression was calm, almost serene, yet there was a stillness in her eyes that hinted at something deeper, something turning quietly beneath the surface. She glanced around the room, not in anger, but in quiet study. The polished marble floors, the framed awards on the walls, the crisp uniforms of the staff. She absorbed every detail with silent precision, as though cataloging it all. The waiter avoided her gaze, retreating behind the counter. The manager pretended to be busy with receipts. Diners resumed their chatter, eager to erase the discomfort that had momentarily cracked their perfect afternoon. The woman finally stood, smoothing her skirt. A faint smile touched her lips, not bitter, not forced, just knowing. She left no trace of outrage, no demand for apology or compensation. She simply walked to the door, sunlight framing her silhouette. And though no one realized it yet, the most powerful person in that room had just left, carrying her silence like a promise. A week later, the afternoon light once again bathed the restaurant in gold, but this time, the air was thick with tension. The staff moved briskly, straightening chairs and polishing glasses that already gleamed. The manager adjusted his tie for the 5th time, beads of sweat forming at his temple. He'd just received the call. The chain's new investors were arriving any minute. A hush fell as the doors swung open. A group of sharply dressed professionals entered, their presence commanding immediate attention. Tailored suits, polished shoes, quiet confidence. At their center walked a familiar figure. the same black woman from that ill-fated afternoon. She moved with measured grace, her gaze calm yet unreadable, the quiet kind of power that needed no introduction. Her cream blouse was gone, replaced by a sleek black suit that seemed to carry the weight of authority itself. 2 attorneys followed closely behind, their briefcases clasped tight. The waiter, frozen mid-step, nearly dropped a tray. His face paled. The manager's welcoming smile trembled at the corners before collapsing entirely. She paused at the center of the room, her eyes sweeping slowly across the space. The same walls, the same staff, the same polished pretense. But this time, she was the one being served. For a moment, the restaurant felt suspended in time. Forks midair, conversations cut short, the hum of background music fading into nothing. Evelyn Brooks stood at the center of it all, the soft click of her heels the only sound as she stepped forward. "Good afternoon," she began, her voice calm yet commanding. "I'm Evelyn Brooks, the new majority owner of this restaurant group." The words landed like thunder in a silent sky. Mouths fell open. The manager's pen slipped from his hand and clattered onto the floor. The waiter's breath hitched audibly, his eyes wide with disbelief. Evelyn's gaze swept across the room, steady and unflinching, before landing on the young waiter. "You taught me something that day," she said quietly, "about how people treat others when they think no one important is watching." Her tone wasn't cruel. It was steady, laced with something far more unsettling than anger: truth. The manager stumbled forward, stammering apologies that tripped over themselves. Evelyn lifted a hand, silencing him with gentle finality. "You're not fired," she said, "but everyone here will be retrained, not just in service but in respect." Her eyes softened. "This place will change, not out of fear, but out of grace." And the room exhaled, humbled and reborn. Weeks passed, and when the restaurant reopened, it felt like a different world. The walls gleamed brighter, but it wasn't just the fresh coat of paint. It was the energy, the warmth that now lingered in the air. Laughter flowed again, not out of politeness but sincerity. The staff greeted guests with genuine smiles, their voices lighter, their movements unhurried. At the heart of it all, Evelyn Brooks moved quietly through the space, never needing to raise her voice. She greeted every employee by name, asked about their families, listened. Her presence carried both authority and peace, a balance that only true strength could hold. The same waiter, once defensive and flustered, now served tables with care. His posture had changed, not stiff with fear, but grounded in humility. He would sometimes glance toward Evelyn's office door and smile faintly, as if reminded of the lesson she had given him without ever raising a hand. Word of the transformation spread across Atlanta. People whispered about the woman who bought the restaurant after being humiliated, but not with gossip, with admiration. Because Evelyn hadn't just bought a restaurant. She had rebuilt a culture, with grace, not vengeance. As the weeks turned into months, the story of Evelyn Brooks became more than just a tale. It became a quiet legend, whispered across boardrooms, cafes, and late-night conversations. People spoke of the woman who had been humiliated in public, who could have lashed out, sued, or sought vengeance, but instead chose transformation. Under her leadership, the restaurant thrived. Employees found pride in their work, and customers felt a warmth that couldn't be faked. The space that once carried tension now hummed with life, laughter, compassion, and the scent of something new being born. One evening, Evelyn sat by the same window where it had all begun. The sunset painted the glass in amber and gold, just as it had that first day. But this time there was no pain, only peace. She watched the waiter she once forgave now teaching a new recruit how to serve with respect. A faint smile touched her lips. In that quiet moment, Evelyn understood. True power doesn't shout, it transforms. It doesn't need applause or validation. It builds, it heals, it changes hearts. Because sometimes the greatest revenge isn't anger, it's grace, and the courage to make something better from what tried to break you.